This is a very, very serious story we're going to tackle at the moment because it's something that I think is almost getting out of control, if one could say that. The Gauteng Department of Education has recently stated that it is losing the battle against teenage pregnancies in the province. In the last financial year, listen to this, 4,446 learners fell pregnant, 40 of which were in primary school. Primary school. Now, the MEC of Education in Gauteng, Panyaza Lesufi, has recently admitted that the current programs and strategies are unsuccessful and that the origin of the problem lies in society and not the department. The Nelson Mandela Children's Fund works in conjunction with the Sexual Violence in Schools in South Africa organization to support teenage girls who fall pregnant. This morning, we are joined in studio by Mampe Ntsedi, I beg your pardon, the program manager of the Nelson Mandela Children's Fund. Mampe, good to have you. Welcome to Morning Live.
Good morning, Leanne.
You know, it just scares the daylights out of me. I've got a daughter. I mean, she's only 4 years old at the moment, but, you know, what does her future hold if these are the numbers coming up? We're only talking about one province.
Yes, yeah.
This is not South Africa. This is just Gauteng. I mean, you know, what is going on? What's happening?
Leanne, I think the problem, we've been having this problem for a long time. We talk about it when we see the media talking about it. It's the only time that we talk about it. But there are a number of contributing factors into that. If you look into the rural communities, you'll realize that some of it comes from the fact that we still have early marriages in this country.
Yeah.
And some of them are forced, some of them are arranged, and some of it is sexual violence. You know, we do know that in this country we have a high rates of sexual violence that leads into girls being raped and subsequently falling pregnant. But the biggest problem is that when children are pregnant and there's no one who takes care of that particular child. I don't know if you remember, there was a story in Mabalani some few years ago. It was on Soweto, and the Children's Fund went to Mabalani trying to understand why there were so many children, because at the time there were about 56 learners in one school who were pregnant.
56 learners? 56
learners. As we got into Mabalan, we realized that half of the children that were pregnant were actually children who were married. So there were girls in school, but who were coming in as daughter-in-laws of somebody.
Goodness me.
And these were 16-year-olds.
Yeah, yeah.
And that was one of the big problems that we experienced. But then, if you go into the Eastern Cape, we're still having the same situation.
Yeah.
Currently, we have started a program there where we are working with the communities to actually, one, you still have a lot of young people, or girls in particular, who are being forced to marriages with elderly men, and at times they are adapted what we call uktwala.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
So we still have a lot of that, and that brings the numbers of teenage pregnancy into the numbers that we are seeing today.
Yeah. It's even, I mean, you're bringing one aspect of it, and I mean, I think it was the beginning of this week, one of our floor operators here, it was a cameraman, I'm not too sure who it was, but showed me video footage of a young schoolgirl and a boy having sex in class.
Exactly.
Now, you know, this scared the daylights out of me. Maybe I live in a bubble, and I like the bubble I live in because it disappoints me and it upsets me to no end seeing visuals of this. It's a video clip of a young boy sitting on a chair, and this girl is sitting on top of him in class,
yes.
and they are having sex in class. Now, where are we going wrong? Because it's not, this at one point is not somewhere, and my argument is we cannot sit and point fingers at the government for this.
No.
Family values is where I'm pointing fingers, is that where are they learning this? Where is this coming from? Are we losing the track when it comes to family values?
I think we have lost that a while ago. The one problem is that as South Africans, we don't seem to realize how sexualized our children are. We talk about sex as if it's normal.
Yeah.
You know, there are no longer those situations whereby sex is a private thing. Sex has become something that can be seen. I mean, you look into the adverts during family time, you see some of the adverts that actually are promoting sexual encounters. You know, you look into how alcohol is advertised.
Yes.
Alcohol is advertised in a very sexual manner.
Yes, indeed.
Cars are advertised in a very sexual manner. So, and remember, children are human beings, so they have the sexual interest as well. They may not necessarily understand what it means and the implications, but fact of the matter is that they see things happening, they think that's what has to happen. If you look into some of the instances that we have had where an 8-year-old rapes a 6-year-old, it tells you that we have allowed our children to experience and see things that they're not supposed to see, but we have, and the context, they don't understand because they are children.
Yeah.
But fortunately for us, we work on farms as well. In the Western Cape, there's a program that we're working with. We're seeing some results that if you actually engage young people at the early age, they can start realizing that having a child is not an option.
Do you think that there's also a link between teenage pregnancies and social grants?
No.
You don't
No,
believe in that?
it's
A lot
not.
of people
It's
talk
not.
about that.
No, it's not because research has confirmed that it is not true. Because there are a number of teenage mothers who do not receive a grant.
Yeah.
So, and also, even when you talk to them, you realize that it's not an issue for them.
Yeah.
The issue is that alcohol contributes into that, and the intake of drugs does contribute into teenage pregnancy, but also vulnerability.
Yeah.
One thing that we need to understand is that there are children who are raising themselves in this country.
Absolutely.
And because of that, there are adults who are not being responsible, who actually prey on those children. And as a result, they fall pregnant.
Yeah. You know, earlier this year, the Minister of Basic Education said that they developed a national policy for the prevention and management of pregnancies in schools. In your view, you know, why do you think that this government's program is unsuccessful if it's not working properly?
I think the problem with most of the programs that are undertaken in schools is that children are not given a space to engage with those problems. So you come in, you tell them what to do. You know, as human beings, we don't like to be told what to do. We want to experiment, but also, more importantly, we want to inform the situation. If you look into the HIV/AIDS battle, we are losing that battle simply because people have not made a decision on themselves or on their own to say, I do not want to have infected. People are looking into their circumstances and say, you know what, if I am hungry now and somebody offers me money, I can still take that.
Yes.
And not make a decision to say, how am I going to be affected? Is this person using protection? Because some people are forced by circumstances to actually engage, especially young women in informal settlements, young women in the rural communities where there's absolutely no hope. I think our issue is to look into how do we give hope to South African children, especially girls.
Yeah.
But men have to take responsibility as
Absolutely.
well.
Absolutely.
Because we have men who are not taking responsibility.
Yeah.
Think of that girl as your own daughter.
Yeah.
The minute you actually go and entice that girl with money and cell phones, ask yourself, if somebody else was to do that to your own daughter, will you be happy with that? I think South African men also have to take responsibility in the problem that we're experiencing.
I think we'll have to leave it there. We've run right into our news headlines, but I think it's a very important issue that we need to discuss more of. Mampe, thank you very much for talking to us here on Morning Live. Mampe Ntsedi is Program Manager for the Nelson Mandela Children's Fund, talking to us about child pregnancies or school-going age pregnancies. It's absolutely frightening when you look at the statistics. Just in Gauteng alone, 4,446 learners fell pregnant, 40 of which were in primary school. My question is, in later generations, are we going to have, again, a lack of females anywhere because of education that is lost due to pregnancies? All right, let's get those news headlines to you now.